So it's been about a week since we actually did a lesson. That was 5-1. We talked about congruent triangles. To be congruent, all the corresponding parts have to be congruent. So you have 3 angles that are the same, 3 sides that are the same from each. Now we're going to talk about how to show that triangles are congruent. So we will learn 5 different ways to show that triangles are congruent. Today we're going to just look at 2 of them. Okay, so it's the SSS and the SAS congruence postulates. When you're all ready. So last semester we looked at a proof a couple times, like I said. So here's the definition. A proof is a convincing argument that shows why a statement is true. So when we did the proofs on the left, it was what we know. On the right, it was how we know it. We're going to look at those again this semester. Again, you didn't have to write that definition down, but it is still nice to think about. The next one is a postulate. Remember, a postulate is just a statement that we all agree is true in geometry. So this is the side congruence postulate. We call it the SSS for short. SSS stands for side. So if 3 sides from one triangle are congruent to 3 sides of a second triangle, then those triangles are congruent. So today I'll say, are these triangles congruent? And if you can match up all 3 sides, you'd say yes because of SSS. Another way to prove that triangles is congruent is the side angle side. So you need the side, then an angle, then the other side. So 2 sides and the included angle. Underline this word, included angle. That's very important. I'll show you when it doesn't work in just a second. But it has to be 2 sides and the angle in the middle between those sides match with 2 sides and the angle in between on the other. And then you can use the side angle side. We'll do these 2 examples together, and then we'll do examples that I want you to put in your notes. So this one says, does the diagram give enough information to use SSS? So basically, do 3 of the sides match from one to the other? So right here, do you see how these 2 match? Okay, so we have 1 side from each. These 2, right? Okay, and then do you see how this segment is actually the same segment in both? So all the sides from one match all the sides from the other. So this would be a yes. What about in B?
No.
No, why not?
There's no right angle in the J, okay.
I think I know what you're saying. Right? To use side, we would need those sides. We don't have any indication that those 2 are congruent. So this one's going to be a no. Okay?
They have to be
all 3 sides.
They have to be together.
They don't have to be together. So if this one, like all we would have needed is like some sort of marking that shows that those 2 match.
Basically like 8.
But on A, they're overlapping. That was her question. Do they have to be overlapping? No, they can be. All right, here's the next one. I do want you to try to draw these. I'll give you a second. And then see if you can decide if we can use SSS or not. Okay, so do you see we have these 2, right? This one and this one. They're good. This side is in both. So we have 2 sides. Do we know anything about the 3rd side?
No.
This guy and this guy. No. So this one's not enough. We just have side. We don't have that 3rd side that we need. What about number 2? Yeah. See how these guys match? And then these guys match, and then these guys match? So all 3 match from each. So this one would be a yes. What are your questions?
0. How did you find out
If it's the same segment in both triangles, it's congruent. All right, ready? So next, you don't need to write this down. I just wanted to point this out. So in order to use the side angle side, I told you earlier it has to be the included angle. The included angle is the angle that's made by the 2 sides that you're given. Okay? So if you're tracing the triangle, you start at one of the sides, then you go to an angle, then you go to the other side. It has to go in that order. Start at a side, then an angle, then a side. From one triangle has to match with the other. If you're tracing it and you start at the angle and then the two sides are next to each other, that's not okay. If you find yourself saying a bad word, that's not going to be the answer, okay? It can't go angle then the two sides next to each other. So I always say there are no bad words in geometry. If you're trying to do the angle side, you're not. Not because it just happens to be a bad word. It's also not mathematically correct. So, you know what it says.
Oh.
All right. So here's our example of this one. You don't need to write this one down. Just watch. Does the diagram work? So here, do you see how the angle isn't between the sides? Like if I was trying to match them up, it would be like if you start here and then you go around this way, it'd be like the side, then the next side, then the angle. So side, side angle. Now what is that? This is a bad word backwards, right? That's not okay. If you started at the angle and you went this way, it'd be ASS, it'd be a bad word forward, right? The angle that we would need this one and this one if we wanted to use side, angle, side. Okay? So in this one, we would simply just say no. Don't even say SSA or AAS. Just say no. You could not use side, angle, side. It's not in the right order. Okay? Here are the ones I want you to get in your notes. So I'll give you a second. All right, I'm actually going to go to the board and use my hands on this one because I think it's a little easier if you put your fingers, use both hands, put your fingers on the parts that match. Okay? So I'm going to start with the sides labeled with 1. Do you see these?
Yes.
Now, go to the angles. Are they in the middle of the sides? So could you trace with both fingers a side that matches, an angle that matches, then a side that matches? Yeah. So this one's going to be a yes. Now, if I go to number 4, I have a side, I have an angle, and then are those sides in the same order? Was that the same move right there? No. We're a little out of order there. It's not quite side, angle, side. We have side, angle, side on one, but then we have angle, side, side on the other. So this one's going to be a no. They're not corresponding correctly. Questions on that? What are you doing? Yeah. You sure? All right, we good? All right, so as it says on the board, you don't need to write these down. But this is kind of where we'll end up going with this. Instead of saying, is it this one particular postulate, it'll just say, is it any of the postulates, and if it is, which one? So, is there enough information to show that the triangles are congruent? If so, state the postulate. So number 1. What do you think? Yes, because that's the same, right? So which postulate are we using? The options so far are SSS. So which one is that? SSS. We don't have any information about the sides. So this one is a yes by SSS. The next one. Any thoughts? You don't need to write these. Yeah, this is SAS, side, then the angle, then these sides are the same. Okay, so this is SAS. What about the last one?
Nope.
Why do you think it's a no? So I have two sides, right? And I have an angle, but is it in the right order?
No.
No. If you start up here, this would go angle, then the side, then the side. So ASS, that's a no. No bad words. So be careful that angle has to be in the middle. Like if we had the angles over here, we'd be good, but we don't. So yeah, today we learned two postulates. We use the side, 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 and the side, angle, side. So if you are new to this class, we end every day of notes with this statement. today we learned, and then you write a little sentence about what you learned. It can be exactly the same as what I write. You can put it in your own words. I grade notes at the end of some chapters, usually about half the chapters. I'll collect the notes and grade them. The things I look for is that they're highlighted, as we discussed at the beginning of class, and that they're summarized, and that all the notes are there.